Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. You get to be involved in some of the most exciting stuff on earth because we have Nehemia Gordon, the Karaite scholar from Israel, with us, and we're going through our questions from cyberspace. Nehemia, you have some more that have come up, and let's get into it.
I have a question for my friend in Pennsylvania, Perry Gerhardt. He writes, wanting to know what the ancient scrolls and manuscripts really say about keeping Shabbat. Nothing added, nothing taken away. How do we keep it holy? So, it's just such a simple and innocent question. In other ways, it's the rabbis have this statement about Shabbat. They say the laws of Shabbat are like a mountain hanging by a thread. And what they mean by that is there's very few verses, very few words. It says, remember the Shabbat to keep it holy. It says in plow time and harvest time you shall rest. And a few other very small verses. And out of that, I guess they quite literally get a mountain not only out of a molehill, they get a mountain out of a piece of string. And this is where things get confusing. I'll deal with a lot of Hebrew roots folks, and even a lot of Jewish folks even more, I have to admit. This is more on my side, where we're dealing with people where they've got books and volumes on what you can do on Shabbat and what you can't do on Shabbat. And ironically, work is often not in those volumes. That work isn't, when I was taught growing up, that there are specific things that are forbidden on Shabbat. Like you can't tear your own toilet paper on Shabbat. It has to be torn before Shabbat. And I'm not joking about that.
Oh, no, I know
you know
it's
that
true.
in Israel, that people have their toilet paper pre-torn before Shabbat. But you can carry your couch up and down your stairs all day within your house. That's permissible because it's not work.
Right. It's inside the Eruv.
Right. Yeah, so what we've done in Judaism is we've created, the rabbi said it best, we've created this mountain hanging by a string. I said, let's go back to the string. That's the string of truth. That's the blue thread of the tzitzit. Let's just go back to it and not make it complicated. If God says to rest, then rest. And why do we have to make it complicated? Where things do get more complicated is in addition to what the Torah says, you've got the Torah police. Have you encountered these guys, Michael?
Oh, yeah, absolutely vicious. They are the end-all and be-all of judgment.
Yeah. Now, they've decided for themselves, this is what we've been convicted based on our understanding of the Torah, working it out in fear and trembling with prayer and study, and having all the answers in Revelation. This is what you're allowed to do.
Being as anal as possible.
Well, I didn't say that. Now we've got to impose that on everybody else, and if they don't live up to our standard, we need to judge them. And I want to confess something, Michael. There was a time when I was the religious police. I don't know if you knew that. I was the gatekeeper in the Karaite community. I would literally put people through interrogations, not with bright lights, but just about. I was a gatekeeper, and it's
sodium pentothal.
Well, not that bad, but really, I was a gatekeeper. And if somebody didn't toe the line and line up, it was, well, no, we can't have that person involved here. And at some point in my ministry, I was humbled and had to come before the Creator in humility and say, Father, I just want you to accept me. It's not for me to now go and decide who the other people that you're going to accept are. And really, it's what Yeshua taught. Like, wow, what an amazing teacher you have, Michael, this Rebbe of yours, Yeshua, who taught, judge not lest you be judged. The measure that you judge another is what you're going to be judged. That's the Torah concept of midah keneged midah. Measure for measure. The way I talk about this in my book of Prayer to Our Father, bring a bunch of verses from the Tanakh. The way you treat somebody else, that's the way God will treat you. And I realized, coming before the Creator in humility, that, I'm not perfect. And if I'm the judge of other people, boy, when it comes time for judgment, am I going to be deserving of mercy and the Creator's grace if I don't extend that to others?
Right.
And
I realize, in a prayer to our fathers, you are doing that prayer, and Yeshua's explanation is that if you don't forgive others, your Heavenly Father won't forgive you. Right. And most Christians don't even look at that. No, He won't forgive you if you don't forgive others. Right. The case is closed.
Right. Well, that was done away with on the cross. That everything.
Everything Jesus said is done away with on the cross.
I've actually had Christians tell me that. Everything Jesus taught during His ministry.
Yeah, He's just talking to Jews. They didn't accept Him, so you just throw all that stuff in the trash.
Right. I mean, then I don't know why it wasn't. Then why wasn't it left on the cutting room floor? Why was it put in the Gospels? The bulk of the Gospels are the things He actually taught. But in any event, clearly in the Tanakh and even what Yeshua taught is don't judge others. And so this is what I tell people when it comes to Shabbat. I can give you my opinion on things, but ultimately work it out for yourself in fear and trembling with prayer and study before the creator of the universe. And what you've worked out, don't then go impose on everybody else. And I'll just give you a really simple example. In Exodus 35, it says, Lo tivaru esh b'chol moshotechem b'yom HaShabbat. Don't kindle a fire in all your habitations on the day of Shabbat. And in the Karaite Jewish community, this verse has been the subject of entire books that have been written, literally, on this subject. Right. And there are three main opinions out there in Karaite Jewish history, going back over 1,000 years. Number one is that means you can't even have a fire on Shabbat that you lit beforehand. That kindle means not just start the fire, not just feed the fire, it means it can't even allow it to burn. And there is one translation by a man named Everett Fox, who's a rabbi actually, not a Karaite. And he says, you shall not burn a fire in your habitations on the Sabbath day. A rabbinical Jew who writes this. So it's not an impossible interpretation. It's one of the interpretations. Another one is, don't feed the fire or start a fire, but you can leave it burning from before Shabbat. That's an opinion of some Karaites and all rabbinical Jews. And the third opinion is the issue here is the labor involved in building the fire. What we're talking about is going around and gathering the wood and chopping the wood and striking the flint against the other flint. If you've ever seen the television show Survivor, you see what it, or been in the Boy Scouts, you know what what building a fire is. Today we don't know. We push a button. And so those are three historical opinions that existed within the Karaite Jewish community. The third opinion is, or the second opinion is definitely the opinion of rabbinical Judaism, that it's adding to the fire, starting the fire, but you can leave it. And I say to people, say, so Nehemia, what's the answer? And I say, you don't need the answer from me. I'm not Yehovah. I'm not the creator of the universe. Those are the possibilities. Study the scripture, study the language, pray about it, and ask the creator for guidance, and work it out for yourself in fear and trembling, with prayer and study before the creator. You don't need me to give you the answer. You really need to work it out for yourself. And then when you figured it out, don't go judge your neighbor who's trying to keep the Torah who has figured out something else. Because there's
and it's doing what you were doing last week.
Probably.
Now you're going to judge them for doing what you did last week. That's usually what happens.
Exactly, right. Exactly.
I'm stepped up on a higher level of holiness.
Now
you're where
I figured it out, and now I need to condemn the other person who did what I used to do. And there's something in psychology, I think, that's going on here. That somebody, to make themselves feel holy, needs to condemn the other person. And I've jokingly said in the past that I wonder if in the Christian version, in some Christian versions, it's instead of Yeshua saying, judge not lest ye be judged, that in their version it actually says, judge first lest others judge you. And I was sharing this with a Christian guy, and he says, no, but that's actually what it means. And he was dead serious.
Yeah, beautiful. Hey, now we're talking about within the Karaite movement.
Oh yeah.
So the scripturalist movement, we have these different concepts
right,
here.
And we're talking all people who can read Hebrew perfectly. This isn't even a translation issue.
Right.
Meaning there's
okay.
And
so now, so we see that there's different ways, vastly different ways of this being understood.
Very much so.
And so now let's get into something, a rabbinic tradition, lighting the candles on the Sabbath, because the Karaites have a different position there. And let's go right to the prayer. We got just a few moments here.
So where that comes from originally is in the 900s AD, the Karaites were about 50% of the Jewish population, and the predominant opinion among Karaites was that you can't even have a fire left burning from before Shabbat. And in response to that, the rabbis created this tradition, and they admit this came in response to this Karaite view that you're required to light candles.
And required to have them burning on the Sabbath.
And to say the blessing, blessed art thou, Lord, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments, commanding us to light the Shabbat candles. That blessing came in response to this Karaite position, which was one of three positions, but it was the dominant one at that time in that place in Israel. And so the rabbis now have changed the dynamic altogether. Now we're saying not only can you leave it burning before Shabbat, but God commanded us to do so. Where did he command us to do that? He didn't. That's takanot. And they'll tell you this is something the rabbis enacted in response to the Karaites. They made this takanah, these takanot, in response to the Karaites. Now we're just adding to the Torah with these Shabbat candles.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so, if there's anything that a follower of Yeshua doesn't do, it is takanot. He says, do not follow the takanot of the Pharisees and sages. He says, don't do it. Do not do it. And, 300 years later, when they invented a calendar and made takanot, what is he saying? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't follow it, because it is going to hide the Creator's reckoning of time. It's going to keep you from guarding the Aviv, as we're told to do, and we're going to end up just adopting a bunch of things because it makes you feel Jewish, makes you feel warm and cozy. Let's just follow the Messiah. That's my perspective on this, and you ought to agree with me, because I sat in the seat of Moses at Chorazin one day, and everything I say, you have to do. We'll be back after this word, which is not facetious, it's not sarcastic, it's the truth, it's for you.